Gina, very, very exciting for you. Mosaic is a go. So like right down next to you on South Temple and I think it's 10th East. So like right down the street from you, we're going to open up a studio, a by donation studio. So
I accidentally ended up on a hike with James Hardy yesterday. He was tight-lipped and he was like, I'll just let Kim tell you. It was funny.
Yeah, very exciting. Okay, so I thought today we'd work on, I've been really into rolling and now I've been learning about and really into the fascial lines. So I thought today we would combine them and we would do some rolling of these fascial lines. So the fascia is the net that connects us all or connects all parts of ourself, but there's specific lines that they can like dissect out and be like, your pinky finger is connected to your scapula and they can just like take the connection all the way out. Some of the other body parts, you can't like see the lines as clearly. And it's these fascial lines or these fascia trains that the meridians run, which is really cool. So whenever we're working with the fascia, we're always working with the energy as well. So we're going to start on the superficial back line. So the superficial back line starts at the triangle of your foot. So from the base of your pinky toe, base of your big toe to the front part of your inner heel. That's like the main part where the fascia connects. And then it goes over the heel, up the back of the leg, over the sacrum. The sacrum is really dense back there, up the back. There's a big connection point on the base of the head, up over the head and under the front of the eyebrows. So that's all connected in places. Common things that will make it tight is people who have like text head where their head comes forward, because whenever we move, you could think about the fascia kind of being a giant muscle, because I've done a lot of explaining of how when the muscles attachment move away from each other, it creates tightness. So it's that same thing. So now from my head all the way to my feet, if I'm in a place where those two ends are moved away for a long time, they're going to be fatigued because they're going to be trying to pull back into place, but you just don't. So people who take their head forward, because we're in such a forward world, we do everything in front of us. We're always bringing tension to this back line because our head's forward, or our shoulders are rounded forward, or our ribs stick forward, or our hips stick forward. Like really everything we do, this back line is going to have tension in it. And it's one of those really interesting things where the way the body's weight's distributed makes such a difference on how your body feels. Like if your head is held right over your pelvis, it's like 8 pounds for your back to support. But if your head is forward, it becomes like hundreds of pounds because of the way the weight is distributed. And all of that weight ends up going to that fascia system. Oh, and I wanted to show you this too. So I got this little guy to show you biotensegrity. I remembered this on Tuesday, but it didn't feel appropriate to pause class. So the other biotensegrity structures are like a ball, right? And then they have the elastic and the balls, and you can like manipulate the ball. So this is the same thing. There's little elastics that run through these wooden things. And because of these wooden things, you could think of them like bones. It looks like the bones are supporting the giraffe. But if I push this little button that removes the tension from the elastic, he collapses. So the bones are still there. What we took away was the tension. So this is biotensegrity, and they're calling it the new biomechanics, and the new way of stretching is to view ourselves as this tensile structure that really functions from the tension in our body. So we're not, my Violet had a graduation yesterday and they sang that bone songs, and I realized just how inaccurate it is, because it's like your skeleton supports you and your muscles make you walk. It's like, that's actually not true. Your fascia supports you and holds you up. But so it's really different. Like if you were to think of yourself as just like all these bones that are moved by muscles, like I imagine a very robotic movement. But if you think of yourself like this tensile structure, there's even videos on YouTube where they like make one of these that looks like a human, and then they make it walk by some strings above, and it moves so much like us. So our movement is very much tensile based, meaning if we bend one way, our tension, our fascia is going to pull us up. But what happens, and I wish this toy could demonstrate this more, but like, let's say I move if I manipulate the tension in his knee, look at how his whole body gets distorted. So you could imagine with us, if we have the collagen lays down every 20 minutes. So if we have parts of our body that we're not moving on a regular basis, this is when like Gil Heldy talked about the fuzz, that area is going to be impinged and it's no longer going to transfer the same kind of movement, and it's going to have an effect on everywhere else because everything's connected. So as we move through these practices and we're more fascia focused, we're looking for those tense parts in ourselves. I read this quote from Jill Miller, who's one of the women I get a lot of this stuff from. And she says something about, it's like something about our job being, or what we're doing when we do this work is we're looking for our body's blind spots. Well, I like that, but I want to invite you to do that with a lot of friendliness and curiosity. So I'm like this detective, like I'm going to find the culprits that are messing up my tensile system. And more like, I'm a plant, I'm like this living thing, I'm not a machine, and it's not going to be this one simple fix. Like I found the part, let me just adjust it. Now I'm 100% perfect. It's like, no, we're this living thing and we're just trying to prune ourselves as best we can. So with all of that said, let's come to standing up. Oh, feeling it today. Figure out one place where I can just keep this phone the whole time without thinking I need to adjust it 1,000 times. It's a little warm in here. Okay. So we're going to monitor or measure before and after we do each squat as we move up the back line of the body. So the first way we're going to monitor ourselves is just in standing position. So standing up nice and tall. Begin to connect to your breath. And take kind of a first impression snapshot of how you're feeling. How's your body feeling? How are your emotions feeling? Your thoughts? No judgment. I'm making a reminder that this practice is going to be more a felt practice versus a trying to do it right practice. Okay, let your eyes open. And then we're going to do a little walk in place. So pushing up onto the ball of one foot and then pushing up onto the ball of the other foot. And at either end, there's an end range where one foot's on the floor and one foot's in a point. So instead of paying as much attention to the end range, I want you to spend some time hovering in the middle between those two. So just walking up and down without letting the heels touch, just noticing how the ankles are feeling. Okay, so now we'll start with the foot. So finding your ball. Do you have your two? Perfect. Yes. Find your two balls. Select one of them. You might begin to notice, you can tell the difference between your balls. Like I thought the balls were all just one density, but now I'm seeing I have like a variety. I was like, I want a softball. It's like they're all the same, but it's like really they're not. Really they are not. So we're gonna do our hello stretches by going up and down in the same direction as the muscle fibers. So going from the pinky toe down to the heel, and doesn't need to be perfect. Noticing how the foot does little movements to contour the ball. That's so great because normally when we wear shoes, our feet don't get to do those little movements. Now we're going to do cross fiber, so going the opposite direction that the muscle fibers run. Anchor your heel down. Put the ball just underneath the ball of your foot, so kind of at the top of that triangle of the fascia, and then rotate your foot from one side to the other. And let the focus be on going lateral and medial across the foot from the big toe to the pinky toe, and then start to work your foot forward as you do that. So you're going side to side all the way up to the heel. When you get to the heel, put the ball of the foot down and apply pressure to the front aspect of the heel and go side to side with the heel. Some people will get, there's a specific name for it, I don't remember, but they'll get bone spurs at the front aspect of their heel because the fascia gets so tight. The part of the triangle that attaches to the front of the heel can like pull the bone away from the heel and you get some bone spurs there. Now do it one more time. So starting at the ball of the foot, do your cross fiber friction. You don't need to make it like all the way down to the heel. You might find an interesting spot and choose to stop listening to me and do what you want. Okay, and then we're going to hit, we did this technique last time. It's called plowing, where you're using the muscle to, where you're using the ball to push the muscle out of the way. So the goal isn't to be on top of the muscle, massaging it out. It's to kind of push those layers of fascia over to access the deeper layers. And the way we're going to do it on this first one is by getting the ball right to the inside of the big toe, so right to the, you have the big toe bone right to the ends below that. And then you're gonna roll your foot like you're trying to sprain your ankle. I'm not trying to, your foot is rolling out to the pinky side and you're trying to push the ball under that big toe muscle. Well, you know, with balls, it's just like coordination that comes with time. In the beginning, it's like, I felt so hopeless. I'm so glad I stuck it out. So now you can add the engagement in the movement. So this is where our fascia flossing comes in. So we're applying pressure. So now we want to engage and release the muscle. So the way we do this with the big toe is spreading the toes. So still applying the pressure, spread your big toe and then release. These two that we're going to do are really good for bunions, because one of the reasons bunions happen is that the big toe and the pinky toe narrow because they've been like shoved into shoes, especially like high heels is a really common one because the toe is pointed. And so all of that pressure in of the tips of the toes makes the base of the toes widen. So this is doing the opposite. It's widening the toes so the base of the toes narrow. And now we're going to do it on the pinky toe side. So rolling over to the pinky toe side and same thing. The big toe and the pinky toe each have a muscle that lets them abduct out to the side. And that's what we're trying to side. So look at Becky, how you're pushing down. Yeah. See how I'm like trying to push under? Yeah, it's a hard one. My knee has to do really weird things. It has to like move out to the side. Better. Yeah, it looks like you're getting under it more. Yeah. Okay. And then apply the compression for a little bit. Once you have that, spread the pinky toe.
My mom has bunions and they're pretty good. So this is good.
Ty has bunions, but he won't call them bunions. And his sister just had bunion surgery, and I'm like, it's hereditary. Like, yeah, your whole family has them. He's like, these aren't bunions. Like, okay, dude, whatever. His like big toes, like,
I know, see that?
It goes way over. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's just like bones do weird things. Okay, so now we're gonna do flexion of the toe. Gina, I'm going to try to move you down a little bit lower, just so you can see. This is pretty self-explanatory, but so for the big toe, I'm going to do the big toe. So I'm going to try to get as much flexion out of the big toe as I can. I've been doing these ball stuff with my feet like every day, and I think it might be too much. Like my foot, like, I think I'm going too intense, but I also really like, I think I should take days off, like, for the foot specifically. I'm getting in so deep. Okay, so now we're going to add muscle by pushing the big toe into the ball and releasing. Push into the ball, release. And now we're going to lift the heel up. This is a doozy for me. Try to keep the ball of the foot down, and if you can't, figure out how to get the toe at less of an angle so you can keep the ball of the foot grounded. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to go to the 3 middle toes. So same idea, trying to get the base of the little toes down. Letting your foot adjust to this. If you think about it, we don't move our feet very much. And then when we do, it's really the big toe and the pinky toe. The 3 toes in the middle get pretty neglected. They're just kind of along for the ride. But the 3 toes that connect all the way to the base of the foot make up for half of your bone. So it's a pretty big area of the foot to neglect. Now add your pressure. So pushing the pinky toe or the 3 toes down and releasing. You might notice that back line as you do this. So for me, I'm feeling how much I'm leaning forward with my shoulders and my head. When you think about just where your whole back line is, now add the knee bend and the heel lift. Becoming more sensitive to being able to feel the sensation maybe up the spine, back of the neck, back of the head, maybe even the eyebrows. Okay, really nice. And then I like to just hit the pinky toe for a moment as I roll off of the ball. Now stand on both feet. Notice which side of your body feels more connected to the earth, and then in which ways. So you're becoming more sensitive to the sensations. Now let your eyes open and do your little walk with your knees. Paying attention to the smoothness of it at the range, but also in between. This would be a really great thing to do before going on a walk, just waking up the feet. Maybe not too intensely if you've recently had foot surgery though. Okay, and we'll repeat it on the second side. So hello, up and down. Oh. So good. Okay, now heel down, cross fiber friction. I like to see if I can take my pinky toe and my big toe all the way down to the floor, just to really experiment with the range. I went live on Facebook the other day because I asked this question on a story if yoga was the best way to work the fascia, true or false. And I had, no one normally answers my polls, but I had like 100 responses and all but 2 were yes, yoga is good for fascia. But my point I was trying to make, so as you do cross fiber work up and down the foot, the point I was trying to make was it's not the best for fascia because fascia is very adaptable. So repetitive movements are much more targeted towards the joints, the bones, and the muscles. And yogas are pretty repetitive unless you consciously try to make it not repetitive. Like it doesn't work the fascia a ton. So trying to move the body in unusual ways is more for the fascia because it's 3D and it's not linear. So trying to get these full ranges in your foot so that if your foot needs to do that, it's not in a brace. Okay, let's go into that hallucis longus muscle, which is the big toe one. We're pushing aside those fascial layers at the bottom of the foot, getting deep in the fascia where we're pushing. You can do it really anywhere on the side of, oh gosh, ooh, that's intense. I did it right at, normally I go underneath the ball of the big toe, but I went like right at the ball and there's some juicy stuff to get in there for me. I'll hold my ball sometimes so I can control it better and then abduct the toes, practice on spreading it. Feeling it, big toes, feeling this. Okay, now let's go over to the pinky toe side. Push it out of the side and then find your compression. So it looks like some good stuff you're getting, Becky, but it's not the plow. One of the ways you can tell is if you push on your foot and it looks like that foot region gets bigger, that means you're smushing your foot. And for the plow, I'm trying to roll underneath it. So the ball's like disappearing under my foot. I'll just have to explore. Maybe your foot needs this. And it's like, no, Becky, you're doing it right. So I might not be correct. Okay, let's do the toe flexions. So good, that arch. Okay, so big toe. This is where I think I've been going too extreme, so I'm going to back up with my intensity of the toe flexion action. And then do your gas pedal, pushing on and off with the big toe. Notice the length of your back line, especially your head. That's one of these habits we have. When we're conscious of it, we fix it, but we're just so unconscious so much throughout the day. So every once in a while, bringing awareness to these lines of our body so that the tension can release in the ways that pull us out of our harmony. So this is kind of the idea of optimal alignment again, but it has to do with more of mobility than a static position. Beginning to bend the knee, lifting up the heel.
Do you go back and forth?
Yeah. I don't want to go like this.
That's really intense for me.
It's very intense for me. Probably all that hiking. Becky has turned into a hiker. Okay, let's do the 3 middle toes. Oh. I like to push the big and the pinky toe down so that they can learn to move separately. Now, coming back to this remembrance of becoming more embodied, coming into your wholeness, so you can really be present. Okay, and then hit your pinky toe for a moment. Then let's do our walk it out. It's just like so amazing to me the difference I feel. It's like night and day. Do you feel a difference?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to judge the feet since my feet are so
just like it open.
It's incredible. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is our calf. So go over to a wall or a chair, something that you can do a calf stretch. Put one foot forward. We're just going to do a really traditional calf stretch. And then try to straighten the leg behind you, heel to the floor. Yeah, perfect. So feel the tightness of your back line with your legs straight. So not hyperextended, but not really bent. You might need to walk your foot out farther to have your legs straight and get the calf stretch. Something that I thought was interesting is I'm such a knee bender. I really like to bend the knee so that the knee doesn't hyperextend. But what I learned from studying the back line is when you bend the knee, you've now lost the connection from your knee to your foot as it relates to your back line. So when the knee is bent, you're stretching the back line from your knee up to your head. Or maybe it's just from your heel to your knee. And when you straighten your leg, then you have more of the ability to go all the way up to your head. Just experimenting how it bends with the knee a little bent and with the leg more straight, and then switch sides. So this is just going to be our observation place. I don't think we'll do a ton on the calves because they're not as exciting as some of the other parts I want to get to. But we will hit them for a moment. Okay, so come on down. Let's see. We're going to use both of our balls now and a block. 2 balls and a block. Do my other ball just. Okay, so I'm going to use the block to raise my calf. And I'm going to use 2. So there's one on the outside and the inside. Half the time I'm doing this, I'll be forward folding and holding my balls in place. You're just gonna point and flex your foot. If you can get it to stay, you can lean back with your hands behind your back. You can also rotate your whole leg in and out and then point and flex. We're compressing the ball, and then we're adding pin and lengthen by adding the movement. You can add more weight by crossing a foot over. And take the balls up a little bit higher. We'll do them one more time in the calf. So go up more to the gastroc. Same thing, applying pressure. And rotating the foot out and in. So learning these techniques, so we have compression, we have pin and lengthen, we have like rotation. So whenever you're using the balls on any of these points, you can always experiment with those different things. It's like the principles of alignment. You can apply them to any pose. Same thing with the balls. These techniques you can try on all the different parts of your body because we're all gonna experience them differently. Okay, let's do the other side. Like I said, we could spend a lot more time on the calf, but I really want to get up to the hamstrings. They did an experiment. I forgot where they did it. I think it was at a school. They did an experiment though on the calf because the calf is such an easy muscle, or it's an easier muscle to measure its response when doing a study. So they did 2 studies on the calf, or they did a study on the calf. The control group just stretched their calves every day for a certain amount of time. And then the other group stretched and they rolled out their calves. And what they found was when people just stretch, and they've known this for a while, when people stretch their muscles statically, they lose some strength just temporarily as the muscle's so long. So like sports, before a sport team, you wouldn't stretch right before you were like gonna play NBA basketball or something, because it would affect their like performance. But they found that when people use the balls and stretching, it actually makes their ability to recover and like go into action stronger. So I don't feel like that's very applicable to my life because I don't feel very like athletic these days. Like I'm gonna spring into action. But anything that supports like any studies, I still enjoy. Like, nice.
I feel like even just like when I go to work,
right?
Yeah, I gotta run around on the patio all day.
It's really interesting to be
sport, but
active living. Right. Oh.
This calf is way more so.
Isn't that interesting?
And I can't get out of my mirroring you.
Well, I'm doing good stuff. Our bodies must both need the same things. Oh, but it's really fun to practice at your house without me, and close your eyes and be guided by yourself. I think that's so cool. To be able to really realize like you don't need a teacher to guide you. So I think we can fall for that trap. Okay, let's check out our calves again. Come into your same position. And we didn't spend very much time, but I feel a big difference. Okay. Now we're going to do our hamstrings. We'll come take a forward fold. So Tom Myers, who's the guy who like named these fascial chains, he was the one I had heard, if the knees are bent in forward fold, that's great. Well, he didn't say it's great. I'm gonna add, I think that's great because it takes pressure out of your back, What he pointed out is if the knees are bent, you're not stretching the whole back line. So you guys are both bendy enough that you can have your legs more straight, especially as you warm up. So just know that there's pros and cons for each. Straightening the legs could add too much tension, but it's a good point that straightening the legs helps us take into account more of the back line. Now reach up with your hands, put your hands on the back of your head like you're gonna do a crunch. And then take your thumbs and begin to apply some pressure to the space underneath the occiput. So this is one of the big places where the whole back line attaches before it thins and goes up over the skull under the eyebrows. Okay, bend your knees and come to lay on your back. I forgot that the way I wanted to test was laying on the back. So lay on your back, legs straight, and then take one leg up to the sky. So for a while, they used to use this move to just measure hamstring stretch, but then they found that you're not just stretching your hamstring here. If your back is tight, if your head's really far forward, all of that's going to limit your ability to lift your leg up. So just notice how much you can lift it up. You could point and flex your foot. This is going to be our measuring position. Move it around. So notice the level of tension that's held in this back line, and then switch your legs. And it's kind of like we're all these little giraffes held up by elasticity, but we're all twisted up and it's making us move weird. And so we're exploring for ourselves to find where we're held up in our tension so we can recover our resilience and buoyancy. Okay, really nice. Now come all the way up to standing. We're going to use one ball for this. I'm going to use my chair, Gina. You're going to move over to your stair. And the first place we're going to work, we're going to be working the hamstrings. And I'm going to show you the 3 places. So if you bend your knees, you can feel on the back of your knees, you have these 2 tendons on either knee. So let's do the lateral one. So just lateral or just medial of your lateral seminis tendon membrane. Under there's this little groove. So one of the lines I could be working on is this little groove up here, all the way up to the sitting bone. There's also one medial to the other one, so a little bit more, and it will go up more this way. And then you can also do them lateral to those tendons, so a little bit to the side of that tendon and a little bit to this side. So we're not going to have time to do all of that, but just know you can kind of feel around and you can see how weird I'll be moving. So I'm going to put my ball towards the bottom. You can lean forward and back to add pressure. You can rotate your foot a little bit to add your whole shin bone to get into a different spot. You can push down with your hand and straighten and bend your knee. I'm gonna first just kind of move up and down the length of these spots and be looking for interesting places. Truth is, probably all of these places will talk to you. So finding one place you're gonna land in. And let yourself just do compression at first, just feeling your body weight. You're gonna do an engage and contract. So engage the muscle of the hamstring, the whole thigh. Hold it for a few seconds, and then allow the muscle to relax. So this is a technique, again, you can use whenever you're using the balls that helps the ball go a little bit deeper into the fascia. Engaging and releasing. I think I'm going to take some pin and stretches, and I'm going to straighten my leg. I might roll it outside. When it feels like the intensity lessens, or you feel your breath deepening, or you get bored, all of that stuff could be an indicator that it's time to move on. Especially depending on how much time you have. I know for me, as it gets closer to the inner thigh, I get really tight. So as I move back and forth, I'm taking my ball now. I'm still on the hamstring, so I'm medial. I'm not on all the way on the inner thigh, but I'm trying to access that underneath inner thigh, back of the hamstring area. My favorite thing to do this on is I have a little chest, so it's like a little bench. I really like the bench because I'm not limited by the back of this thing. Just need all the freedom. Now start to work the ball up more and more towards the sitting bone. And we're going to begin to move into the pelvic floor muscles. We're going to get the area. So we have our sitting bone where the iliums come down into a little point. And then we have from that ilium, so from the sitting bone, which is right here, in towards the tailbone, there's all these muscles that attach. So we're going to take the ball up to the same leg we're doing, and we're trying to find that space between the sitting bone and the tailbone. Depending on how tight you are here, you might need to push into your feet or hold yourself up. Making it hurt doesn't necessarily make it work better. And you could try, if you find a spot, you could do the engage and release. If you think about this idea of this tension system that's moving us through space, it's really interesting to think about your femur bones and the pelvic floor. They're much more like two trees or something with a hammock between. And that hammock is the tension. And we want it to be able to move in a way that the femurs can go forward and back, but with a lot of swing and openness. But what happens, because especially in the West, where it's like this lower region is so shameful or something, there's like, we don't use it or move it. Unless maybe you're really drunk at a party, do you really like move your pelvis, right? So that ends up becoming really solid with collagen, and then the legs have a really hard time moving, and then all the joints get more strained on them because of this. So you might either be getting a lot of work where you are. Sometimes I'll start to work around my sitting bone in a giant circle. And finding areas around the sitting bone. So not trying to be on the bone directly, but trying to access the soft tissue around it. You could do some like femur rotations, might help access some of those muscles you're on. When you feel ready, you can finish up. We'll start to move to the other leg. Actually, let's do a down dog in between. So you can take your time to finish up. But do a down dog and walk out your legs and see if you can notice a difference. And then we'll walk up through your forward folds and just come up and switch sides. So wanting to stay, at least for today, normally for our experiment, we're focusing mainly on the back of the hamstring, but you could figure out how to hit other things too. You can hit, like the side of the IT band by kind of smushing the ball up. So a plow technique with the ball back up to the hamstring. There's a lot of stuff you can do with the chair or the stairs.
This hamstring's tighter. We should figure out the shoes.
Isn't that interesting how it like that calf is tighter, but that hamstring's tighter?
Yeah.
I wonder what side of your back will be tighter. Right? And it makes sense. It's like it's all connected, you know? So when you manipulate one area, it's going to show up in all these different areas. I tried to do some of this stuff in my Bountiful class yesterday, and it was too much. I was like, I was just so excited that there was like 2 balls, and like I was trying to have people sit on blocks, and they weren't used to me. And I had brought a friend with me, and I was like, she was like, I think the props are just too much. And I was like, the props are so good. It's so fun. But this stuff might have to be contained to Friday.
I'm gonna get weird on the ball.
Right. It is nice that I'm like differentiating the classes, at least for now. Like Fridays, I plan to for sure use props. Tuesdays, like a hit or miss. Okay, let's find our way up to, oh my gosh. I'm just getting my glute here is glorious. My plan was to get my pelvic floor, but this is gonna stay here, you know, listening to the body. And eventually find your pelvic floor. Just it seems like an important one to even up. You might notice the way the body tries to move so you don't get the stretch. The ball being here is really helpful for our proprioception. It's hard for our brain to have a whole image of ourselves if we're not like touching, feeling, using these spaces. So this like sensation is telling your brain like, oh yeah, this is all a part of me and it's my job to keep this in together. It's like the software and the hardware. We need it to communicate or we're not going to be able to run our computer. Okay, finishing up. We'll eventually find ourselves on our back and we'll check the back line again with lifting the leg. Okay, and then once you've checked, come up to standing. We're going to measure we're going to test the tension, become aware of it in our back. So we're going to do this with a roll down, roll up, but we're going to try it with a ball. And remember, I used to always say, like, imagine you had a grapefruit that you squeezed between your chin. We can now do it with a ball. Now, ideally our ball would be a little larger because this is a little small that it makes your head tip forward. But it's great that we can do this. And it can be really helpful when checking which vertebrae don't want to roll by themselves. So continuing to squeeze the ball at the head drop and roll all the way down and pay attention to the way your back feels because that's what we're going to be working to release in a little bit. Notice if your knees are bent or straight, don't let them be hyperextended. And remember that we work more the back line if we can keep the legs more straight. Once you get all the way down, we'll roll back up, still holding the ball. How cool is this? It could really bypass to something in my head that makes that roll confusing sometimes. Okay. So now we're going to be using our 2 balls again. And we're going to be plowing again. So like I'm plowing my arm. I'm trying to push the muscle, my bicep out of the way so I can access underneath the bicep. Okay. So we're going to do it on our back, and what we're going to be plowing from the sides. Actually, Becky, I'll done. Okay. We're going to plow from the sides, and we're going to try to push all of our muscles, like our rhomboids, our erectors. We're trying to push them all the way towards the middle of the spine. So I'm going to do this laying down, but like I'm going to start up here at my shoulder, and I'm going to push. I'm going to try to scrunch all of that skin until it goes over to the side, and then I'll slowly move it down. So I'm getting my whole back. Be mindful about right here where it's just your organs. So let me show you how I awkwardly do this. So I'm going to lay on my side. I'm going to start by my shoulder. And now I have to figure out how to like move my body so the rubber balls grip my skin and push it, oh God, more towards my spine. And then once I feel like the skin is pulled to the side, stretch, scrunching all those muscles and soft tissue layers towards the spine, then hold. And then repeat again. So now off. This is one of those ones where it's like takes a lot of experimenting. So now when I go deeper, I'm going to take my hand like under my armpit. So. Trying to get the balls to eventually smush all the way just before the spine. Feel a sock that feels good to hold, feel free to hold it.
And you keep kind of pulling it down.
And I'm just going to go all the way down from my shoulder down towards the hip. Pushing the skin and the muscles, getting those under areas. Feeling the difference between letting the muscle, the body roll over the ball, and feeling when the ball grips the skin. So when you move, there's like a shearing action that happens in the layers. You want to get into a deeper area. Remember, you could tense the muscles. Hold it tense and then relax the muscles.
So is it kind of like you're trying to get in between the muscles, basically?
It's like I'm trying to get for this. I'm just trying to bring movement to them, because a lot of times we don't move the back very much. So I'm trying to like strip the muscles so that they're not stuck.
Okay.
I was reading about how it takes 20 minutes for these collagen layers to lay down, so pretty quickly. However, it can take a really long time to get these muscles to change. So some people who work with the fascia say like you can use the ball and you can get these instant results. And they've shown them on MRIs that you can see how we're bringing space to the layers. However, there's also people that say that the fascia takes years to really be able to change. So like one of the numbers I read was 3 years to really create like a change in your posture. So remembering that we're working like slow and quick results.
Okay.
Like I'm trying to get as much movement in these layers as possible. Oh,
I'm just stuck right here.
I know. If an area like this ever feels too much, you can also do the same stuff on a wall. Did Nate try to roll out his feet?
Yeah.
Did they hurt again?
I kind of showed him like a couple new things. I think he really liked it.
Cool. I was thinking you could also have him do it sitting down. So like if he was sitting on a chair and rolling out his foot, there'd be less pressure on it.
That's a good idea.
Switching sides at some point. Another thing to work with as we do this, we have our awareness, our mindfulness, little techniques we're doing, and the other one is the breath. Allowing the quality of the breath to calm the nervous system. The quality of the breath can be a really powerful aspect of this. Okay, do you teach Monday and Wednesday?
I teach Wednesday. I've been doing like my brother and Nate and his family on Mondays.
That's nice. They want me to switch my classes from Tuesday to Friday to Monday and Wednesday morning at Mosaic.
Oh, they do. That'd be rare because you've always done Tuesday.
It will be weird.
I mean, now you gotta do it here.
I don't know how much say I'll get.
Yeah, you gotta do it. That's like,
All right.
that's okay. You'll still do your Friday class there?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll just come as much as I can.
We'll figure it out. I'm a little nervous because everyone who teaches at Mosaic has like so many students, but I have this shift. I have you guys. It'll be interesting when they
do you
find
think
out.
if they have so many students because they keep teaching public classes?
I'm not sure. We'll see.
Are they all teaching?
I feel like a lot of the students, it's been so long, who used to practice with me have found other like helpful outlets in their life that they do now, you know, which is fine. I just don't see a lot of them coming back.
I think people just, they have a hard time with like online classes.
Right, yeah, they are. They're challenging. Oh. We're taking your time. We'll meet in down dog. So if you're finished now, you could stay in down dog and explore longer. You could move through some kind of vinyasa or other movement you might want to do, or you could stay here for a few more minutes, making sure that you feel ready to leave.
Yeah, I definitely think it's the opposite. It was the side on my back that's tighter.
The left one or the right one?
Yeah.
So it goes right, half,
So left, like half,
hamstring.
and then this, yeah.
Yeah, I will be interested to see the next one we'll do will be the like the upper neck. Because if it is so.
Okay.
It's my new favorite vinyasa. Forward to lay and pull back. And inhale, this is my cobra. I sound like I'm back in, so it's like that same wave. Feel like I'm like flashing someone, but like flying like a butterfly at the same time. And then we're going to come up to our forward fold. And then grab your ball, put it in between your neck, and we'll tap our roll up and down. So rolling up. Once you roll up, roll back down. something I've been working on as I make these observations. Once you get down, we'll come to a seat. Is first when I would judge things, and this has been like years in my meditation, is it used to be very like wordy. Like I hear a car, I hear a dog, don't think. Like I'd be hearing words in my head as I thought. Now as I make the observations, I try to feel it instead of word it, you know, like, oh my, this scapula feels different than it did last time. It's just like this felt sensation. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we're gonna move on up to our levator. So we're gonna go to the place where the back line attaches under our skull. So the way we're gonna test this is by nodding the head. Sitting up nice and tall, maybe noticing if you're slinching or rocking forward. Both of those are a back line thing. And then nod your head. So lifting the chin up can be a more risky move depending on your spine. Being aware of how much you allow your chin to lift. Even when my chin lifts all the way up, I still have this little action like I'm trying to squeeze the ball under my neck. So I'm not letting the atlas and the atlas compress at the top. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this one is I'm going to take my ball again and I'm going to come to lay down on my back. So I'm going to keep my knees bent because I find that comfortable. You could extend your legs. My block is on the lowest level. You're using it like a little pillow. And I'm going to take each of my balls and put them underneath the occiput. Sometimes I have to keep my hands on my balls so they don't slide away, so you can experiment with that. And we'll start with just a compression, so it's allowing the weight of the head to release down on the balls. So this part of soft tissue not only is a connector from the eyebrows to the base of the head, but there's also a muscle that you're getting in here for the pupils, for looking out of the eyes. So while you're applying pressure, look from side to side, up and down, and notice if you feel any kind of straining. When these muscles in this back line, it has imbalanced tension, looking around with our eyes can add strain to it. This is really good for people who have muscles or migraines. If you have muscles, this will be good. Just skeletons, probably not. Okay, now we're going to do a little nod in our head. So taking the chin down a little bit and up. When my balls feel like they're widening and slipping away, I'll have to like push them back together. Another option you can do is keeping the head still with the knees bent, soles of the feet on the floor, creating a movement from the feet. So push the feet down and forward to push your head up and slide the balls just a little bit down. And then push your feet down and drive your heels towards your butt. And you'll pull yourself down. So you can push yourself forward and back with your legs to get in a little bit differently. You can turn your head from side to side, maybe with or without the pushing and pulling of the feet. The fascia goes all the way over the back of that skull, the occiput, over towards the ear. So you could turn your head from one side and do these little up and downs and get in all the way up the sides of the occiput, the ledge of the back of the skull. Really nice. And then release that. Roll over to child's pose. Then walk yourself up so you're sitting on your heels. You could add a cushion if you want. We're gonna check our nod. Sitting up nice and tall. Moving the head around, maybe drawing it in some circles. Becky, did you notice if one side was tighter than the other?
I couldn't even tell. I was just eating it up. That was really good, actually. That was
Right. That's a nice one.
they do that with the block, but adding the balls kind of.
Right. And then press yourself up to downward facing dog. Push through your feet, roll all the way up. And come up to your Tadasana when you get up there. Notice this is another, take another impression of your whole self, just like when we did when we first stood on the mat. Do you feel more embodied? Do you feel like there's less tension that pulls you like out of your harmony? You move around a little bit to your air walk. And we're gonna move through, I think like a sun salutation-ish and maybe some standing poses. If as we move through this, you wanna tweak it a little bit so it becomes more intuitive movement, feel free to. Inhale, stretch the arms up to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, bow down. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Last one, inhale. Exhale. Press back, downward facing dog. Widen your feet, put a bend in your knees. Straighten the legs and bend the knees. So squatting back in your down dog and then shifting a little bit forward. Next time as you squat back, shift both of your heels to the right. So squatting back like a little spring and then come forward towards a plank, switch heels to the left, squat back again. Heels to the right. This time as you squat back, maybe let more of the right hip come towards the floor. So you're a little bit lower. New little pulses here. And come forward, switch sides, heels to the left. But booty shakes back, my right hand sometimes will lift. And then as you come forward, work your right foot forward. Left hand can be wider to a block. Open up, high runner's lunge twist. And then as you exhale, straighten the leg, reach your right fingertips forward and down. Inhale, opening up. Exhale, straighten the leg a little bit and reach. Finding something, an interesting feeling on the outer right hip as you do that. Next time you open, hold it open. Bend your back knee. You can stay here, do any other variation you can that calls to you. When you go to, if you go to do another variation, listen after and think, is this where I want to be, or is there something else that would feel better? Without getting too indecisive. Practicing listening. Really nice. Plant to your hands. Set back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward to table. Knees down. Sit back towards the heels. Child. Inhale, breathe and roll yourself forward towards table. At the very end, the heart comes forward. And then as you exhale, hips pull back, back bend down into your child's. Inhale, back fills up and rounds as you come forward. Heart peaks forward at the very end, and then exhale, hips back. You can continue this. I like to take this round forward at the very top. I bend my elbows a little bit and then pull my chest forward into a low cobra. And then gluteus, inner thighs, pull back. Inhale, round forward. Bend the elbows, shift into a low cobra. Continuing to pull length through the spine as the heart opens up. And then as you exhale, belly in, sit bones back. That feels good for my life. Doesn't feel good for your body if you never need to do that again. You can do your own one. Let this, we'll do one more, whatever you're doing. And then the next time you pull back, tuck your toes, send your hips up, down dog. Work your left foot forward between your hands. Right fingertips wide, open up, high runner's lunge twist. Move around a little bit, explore the pose, finding movement. So it's not just a static pose. We now know that that has different benefits to it. So for me, this move, I'm gonna open and then straighten my front leg. When you open, you could think about your whole back line, and you could think about it slightly contracting to hold and support, open your front line. Then lowering the knee to the floor, taking a variation that calls to you. Just inhale and unwind, step back down, you're facing dog. In your down dog, inhale, come forward to plank. Exhale, sit bones, slide back, child's pose. I'm gonna do a few more of these waves. You can wave along with me or do something else. And next time you come down to child's pose, stay there. Find your ball. Put your ball on your forehead, under your forehead, and begin to roll around. So all the forehead. Sometimes my baby hair gets ripped out doing this, beware. The forehead is the superficial back line, coming over the head, underneath the eyebrows. We'll get under the eyebrows in a moment, but this time working on the forehead. You can also do the spinning method here. Sometimes, especially around the third eye, I like to reach in with a hand, find my ball, and just spin it in one direction. And then I can move my head or hold it still, but the spin, the rubber is going to catch some of those layers and get a little bit more movement than if you don't spin. Nice, release the ball, come forward onto your tummy. Be supported by your forearms. And then we're gonna take I like to use my thumbs and then apply pressure underneath your eyebrows. You could just walk a little bit, pressure one thumbprint at a time. Just noticing the sensations. And after noticing the sensations under the length of the eyebrows, going in for a place to hold. This is a great position with the body, because you can allow the weight of the head to surrender more easily onto the thumbs. You could also do this with your balls. You could hold the balls. I haven't done it. It's actually quite nice, holding the balls under the eyebrows. Just can be sometimes weird because we stand on the balls, so I never know how intimate people want to get with them. Oh, but I like the balls. I'm gonna use them with the balls now.
No, Mary had so much tension on him.
Right? But then it makes so much sense if you think about like all of the tension in your back leg. That's a lot because we're such a forward-oriented culture. It's going to your eyebrows. It's affecting the way that you see the world. This is one of the places I have to remind myself that it doesn't have to hurt to work because I can make it so intense. I have to remember that that's not always beneficial for me. They're finding, I don't like focusing on this too much because I don't like beauty standards, but they're saying that wrinkles are where the fascia's kind of lost some fluid. So now you're seeing those layers in the skin more instead of it being like buoyant and fluid and soft. That wrinkles are like the adhesion of the fascia layers. So we could be doing some anti-aging work right now.
Like the new Botox.
The new Botox. Maybe that will get people to come to my class. Botox yoga.
Make it rain. I'll be back.
About 20 years younger. Roll some feet balls on your face. Okay, and when you feel ready, I want you to take a few minutes to explore and move into your final rest. So whether that's going to be on your back or upright. But once you make it there, take some pandiculation. So engaging and stretching intuitively, maybe doing a twist. And feeling yourself in this net of yours more open. On Tuesday, we talked about this fascia net getting clogged up and getting life stuck in the net. So we get old life stuck in our fascial net. So feel yourself, especially after we've really specifically released this backline net, that life, that stuff that's happened to you in the past, that stuff that's you're experiencing now, stuff that you'll experience in the future, is more likely to move through you. So you can move through your life without developing these debris that inhibit our experience. Let your breath be full, natural, relax. Give yourself one more minute here to really relaxed, to not need to hold on to anything extra that would be helpful for you. You could squeeze the whole body and release. Let the breath deepen and begin to reanimate the body. Letting yourself show up as you are now with no expectation for you to be further along the process. We're not a machine that parts fit together and then functions perfectly. We're a living thing, always in process. Eventually let your little movements bring you up to your seat. You can remain more still in your seat, or you can move around, letting whatever naturally happens happen. Orienting yourself for your day. It's Friday morning. I have to now orient myself to the days of the week. This is Memorial Day weekend. Letting yourself prepare to let life move through you as this net, this vessel for you to have this experience. Bring your hands in front of your heart. Holding yourself in presence with gratitude or forgiveness, whatever you might need to be giving yourself in this moment. Making a genuine connection. So lovely to spend these mornings with you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Superficial back line. Check.